Hello, everybody. This is Sue Frederick, and I want to have a mystical conversation with you. That's when we lose ourselves in the wonders of divine mysteries. We share dreams from the other side, intuitive nudgings, and soul mission yearnings. Whenever we can review our lives from the soul's perspective, that higher place of divine inspiration, we're able to use our pain as fuel to help others. And that's exactly what my guests have done today. So excited to introduce you to them. And I'm the author of several books about this topic, including Through a Divine Lens, Bridges to Heaven, and I See Your Dream Job. I'm also a lifelong intuitive, a master numerologist, an ordained unity minister, and a soul regression therapist. My friends have called me an overachiever, and that's true. I've helped a lot of clients find their way through this dense realm that we call life. And if you would like more information, you can visit SueFrederick.com. So let me read this incredible biography of these guests. Today I have Kristine and Ernie Jackson with me. And I met them through Helping Parents Heal, of course, because that's where all these great souls gather to tell their story of loss and love and enlightenment. And Kristine and Ernie say their biography is that they met in December of 1991, had their first date in a couple of months later, and then married 2 months later. So the whole courtship lasted about 6 months at the most.
Not even that, yeah, not even that.
And they've been married 31 years since then. They have 2 children, Cheyenne Eve, who was born in 1993, and Quinton Stone, who was born in 1999, and now is their beautiful child in spirit. Both Kristine and Ernie come from different backgrounds. Kristine was raised a devout Catholic. I can relate to that, Kristine. I wanted to be a nun. Did you?
No, but I went to enough religious education to be a nun, I feel.
That's great. And then Ernie says he grew up with no religious upbringing. Would you say you were cynical of religion, Ernie?
Oh, I didn't know what I didn't know. I was just totally ignorant to it. I did read the Old Testament twice, once when I was 16 and again when I was like 33, in an effort to try to educate myself. So I wouldn't say I was cynical, but I wanted to know more.
Beautiful. Well, as they tell it, Ernie and Kristine's lives changed in 2009 when their son transitioned during a terrible accident during a family vacation. And they say that while some couples grow apart in tragedy, many grow closer. And they became determined that that would be their story, and it is. Their journey of healing has led them on a path of helping others whose children are in a non-physical state and letting them know that they are not alone and that their children are still right here. They are the author of 2 books, Quinton's Messages and Quinton's Legacy. Say hello, guys.
Hello. So good to be here with you,
Yeah,
Sue.
thank you, Sue. We're honored to be on your program.
Well, I was gifted to hear you all talk about forgiveness at Unity of Phoenix. And your talk blew me away because, at Unity, we pay a lot of homage to the idea of forgiveness, but nobody has a right to talk about it unless they've been through something like you two have and found your forgiveness your own way and your own time. So why don't you tell us, and I'll ask Ernie because I know he can't refrain from telling us the story of the accident that changed your lives.
Well, it was our last vacation as a family of 4 in the physical form. And our vacations were significant because I, like so many, gave my all to the world, gave my all to my job, and sadly, only really connected with my family on our once a year vacations. So this was one of those vacations. The ahas began beforehand in that this was the year of the swine flu down in Mexico, and the cartel was making a ruckus up there in Rocky Point, our favorite place, the place we always went. So those around us implored us not to go to Rocky Point in 2009 because I thought we'd die, to put it candidly. So we changed our vacation plans to avoid death, and what irony that is.
As
As our
you say in your book, Ernie, it's a great lesson in that we aren't in control in the way that we think we are.
Not at all. We are not in control. And that was one of my big takeaways from this whole, this whole episode, if you will. So we felt things, my wife, my daughter, my mother-in-law felt things were off leading up to this vacation. Even I felt things were off. And I'm a typical guy. I'm not in touch with my emotions, but I felt something was off to the point that I cleaned up my office. I mean, how odd is that? So we leave, we head on vacation. The trip to the lake was very interesting. Knew a couple different flat tires. We got delayed, almost got hit by a truck on the road as I'm changing a flat tire, but we finally made it to the lake, and it was glorious. It was wonderful. But Quinton was different the whole time. Quinton was kind of staring off into space, looking at those beautiful rocks. I don't know if you've been to Lake Powell,
No.
but you can see faces in the rocks everywhere you look. And it's a very special place. Also, Quinton was nervous about speed and about impact. And we just thought that was odd, but we can go on and
And how
on.
old was Quinton at the time?
He was nine and a half years old. So Quinton didn't want to go fast on the jet ski. So he wouldn't ride with me because I don't know how to go slow. And he refused to go down the slide on the houseboat. At one point, he was willing to do it if he had his goggles on. And I was worried if he go down the slide with his goggles on, his face would hit the water and the goggles would cut his face. So I wouldn't let him go down with the goggles on. So he refused to go down. Kristine, she did something that she found unusual afterwards. She brought all his favorite stuff.
Not realizing that the meals and stuff that I had prepped in advance were his favorites. And my children never really got to drink soda. It was like a special occasion thing. Well, I brought a case of root beer because that was his favorite soda. When we would go dine out or what have you, I would allow him to have a root beer soda. So after thinking about it, it's like, wow, I realized later I brought all his favorites, maybe knowing, unknowing, this was his goodbye, for now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've talked to so many parents who've said the same thing, that they had this sense of precognitive knowingness about it. And what I find so interesting about the human dilemma is that we do get that feeling. And yet, if it's a soul plan, if it's a soul agreement, even if we have that feeling, things are going to happen. It becomes an unstoppable train towards that event. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Because I think early on, I knew that we probably wouldn't have him for long in our life. Although when we received him, he was a blessing. We had no idea we were pregnant. I was told I wasn't going to be able to have children. So I was blessed to have had my daughter, who was 5 years older than him, and then to have gotten pregnant with him. He was God sent to us at a point in time in our life. We needed him.
Your greatest teacher.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Greatest teacher.
Absolutely.
So I can keep going toward the accident.
Continue, Ernie, continue.
I want to really kind of focus on the fact that I thought I had control. So we had, flat tires on the trailer as we were coming down to the lake, from Conifer to Lake Powell. So what did I do? Because I'm in control, had new rubber on the trailer and new spares, and left at a reasonable time. And you know what? I said, I got this under control. So we're headed back home, and we were still having problems. The tires they kept rubbing, they kept smoking. Finally, I pulled over and the axle broke. I pulled over right at the Four Corners area, which is very sacred. We were just past mile marker 1 on the Colorado side on Highway 160. And I was almost giddy. I was like, okay, we're done with this trailer. We are done with this trailer. We're going to offload it and we'll be home in 6 hours. I mean, and I was really feeling good. And that's when the accident happened. Kristine and I were outside the vehicle, and we're 30 feet off the road. They measured. We both were on the passenger side of our Suburban and hitch trailer. And I was toward the back of the trailer, the end of the trailer. Kristine was toward the front of the Suburban. And she was on the phone. She called the owners of the trailer to let them know, it had failed. It'll be in Cortez. And then she called AAA to let them know where we were so they could get the trailer. And all of a sudden she screamed. She screamed in such a way, I can't even describe it, but it cut through everything. And it got my attention, and I was able to turn. I had my back to oncoming traffic, and Kristine's scream forced me to, turn 90 degrees, and I took the impact of an airborne Pontiac Sunbird on my hip. So this vehicle, and I've walked up to them afterwards on the street to see where they come to me on my body. They come to my knee. So this vehicle hit me in my hip. So it was airborne by 15 inches. Launched me 18 feet, they measured. Sideswiped the Suburban with so much force, the whole rig violently moved. Kristine saw this happening, and this woman was moving fast enough to be airborne. Kristine was trying to run back to safety, ended up being hit by the car, took a blow to the head from the bumper, ended up under the car as the car was rolling and bouncing, not rolling, but bouncing as it drove on. And she was left mangled. I landed, dust everywhere, a bumper that's not ours. My mother-in-law was with us. My daughter was with us, our daughter's best friend. Nellie, my mother-in-law, runs out to Kristine, just yelling and screaming. And I think she was yelling for me to come and help. I had just landed. I needed to do a quick assessment to make sure I wasn't missing any limbs. Kristine was with Nellie, and Kristine was mangled. I really didn't think she was alive. After I do my really quick assessment, I roll over to my left and I see my son. My son had gotten out of the Suburban. He was moving to the other side, the driver's side. He was where I would have told him to be if I knew this was coming, which would be between the Suburban and the hitched trailer. But when this young lady hit the Suburban, being the trailer was still hitched, his legs had to have been up against the front of the trailer. He got whiplashed into the back of the Suburban. His head dented the back of the Suburban. Then he landed on the trailer and got a gash. And otherwise, he was near perfect. So when I, saw what was going on, I drug my body over to my son. And, we all have those painful stories. We all have we don't want to get lost in that, but I drug myself over there and I saw his eyes were open, but there was just, the light was gone. I mean, and I didn't necessarily understand it, but it took me a little bit of time to realize he was gone. Over the next 15, 20 minutes, his lips began to turn blue. We tried CPR. It was interesting. We had a good Samaritan stop by. And I wish I could find her today to thank her and give her a hug. She was so there helping, trying to help all of us, trying to help me. The first responders. Yeah, the ambulance finally got there, the helicopter, and I can go on. I mean, but Kristine was.
What is your mystical memory of that? Because you, Kristine, were already probably out of your body traveling in the divine. Do you have any memories of that from your soul's perspective?
I'm not sure. I recall being echoed, just being in this echoed world. And I'm telling my mom, I could hear her yelling to me, don't leave me, don't leave me. You can't leave me. I need you. And I'm telling her to get off my chest. I can't breathe. I can't breathe, please, I wanted to go, let me. And she's telling me, I'm not on your chest. I'm not on your chest. So I feel at that point in time, it was her that brought me back into this world. But I feel it was my son's spirit that came through me and allowed that, because I was ready. I felt I was ready, already there with him. So I don't remember anything from them. I think I lost consciousness from them. I think it took Ernie to tell the helicopter and paramedics, take her. They didn't want to take me. They didn't think I'd survive the trip from Four Corners to Farmington, New Mexico Trauma Center. He stated, his injuries were minor. You need to take her. You need to do anything you can to save her. And they did, they got me there, transported me, and God's, healing. I was in and out of there in 6 days, not knowing that I'd be in and out of there in 6 days, because initially I felt like I couldn't walk, I couldn't see. I don't really have any recollection of anything after me yelling to him, just in, to get out of the way. But it was just the yell. And my last words to my son were to go get back into the Suburban, which was why he was between the Suburban and the trailer, because he was on his way to make it there. So those were my last words to him. But, I feel like I was on the other side for a moment in time. But I chose apparently to come back. I had work to do here, apparently.
Right.
Still do.
So I'm told.
And Ernie, do you have any mystical experiences from that moment of the accident?
I do. But again, you're going to hear me say this a couple times this morning. I was a blank slate. I hadn't read the New Testament. That's still introspective, but there at the accident scene, the young lady who caused the accident, she was, I think, 20 or 21. Her name is Amanda. No drugs, no alcohol. She was coming home from college. It was about 5:30 in the afternoon, and she was probably 15 minutes from her home, and she fell asleep at the wheel. So she, the accident happened. She went off the road, climbed back up, walked over to Kristine, Nellie, and Cheyenne, our daughter. And Cheyenne, through all of her, struggles in this life, if you will, told her it's going to be okay, which is just incredible. Then Amanda walked over to Quinton and I, and not a word was spoken. I was on the ground with my son. I had some road rash on my face. I was bleeding from the head. I looked up at her. She looked down at me. And like I said, not a word, but I saw her soul through her eyes, and my heart broke. She was in pain. She saw what was going on. It registered to her more quickly than it registered to me that Quinton had passed. She felt responsible, and I saw this in her eyes. And she was living my nightmare, and it broke my heart that she had my burden. And what I mean, Sue, is I've had an interesting upbringing, as interesting life to that point, as you've read. One of my escapes, because I'm a guy, I got to have an escape, was driving. I drove like I was suicidal. I mean, from a certain perspective, I was. And my mantra was, "It's today my day, and please don't let me take anybody with me." And when I looked into her eyes, my heart broke, because she's living my nightmare, and I wanted to take that from her. And everything, I mean, I wanted, that was my mystical experiences. And I didn't even, I didn't fixate on the word forgiveness, because I didn't really understand it or know it, but I wanted to take that pain from her.
That is so beautiful, because forgiveness is just a word, but what you just described is the act of forgiveness, of seeing the pain in someone else and just wanting to take that pain, ease that pain, no matter what they've done. And that is a spiritual concept higher than practically anything else, I believe, here on earth. Imagine if we could feel that way towards everyone who hurts us in some way. Right. That is the golden nugget right there. And also, Ernie, you describe, in fact, if anybody wants to read a great book, you just have to read Quinton's Messages. It's and then Quinton's Legacy, because the way Ernie's a great storyteller, as you could tell, and the way he describes this accident scene, you're in it with him when it's happening. And one of the things I came away from reading that is the extraordinary sense, like you say, like you went through everything to make sure that was going to be a safe family trip. I mean, you haven't even described here all the precautions you took and the extra tires in the car and this and that and this and that, so that you could have this safe family vacation, driving at the right time of day. I mean, if anybody goes, oh, he was careless, go read this book. This father did everything in his human power to make this a safe trip. And the ultimate lesson for all of us is we only control our soul's journey, not our physical journey. And if we have agreed to some incredible, intense lessons and some incredible love in order to help us evolve and some incredible pain, then it will unfold. But what we do have control of is exactly what Ernie and Kristine have done with this pain, which is turn it into a loving, caring message for the world. That's gorgeous.
That is
Thank
our
you,
hope.
Sue.
That is our hope. Yes.
Thank you, Sue. We're here to help. We're here to
So
serve.
tell me more mystical experiences, because I've heard the story and there's something about a Native American, right?
Yes.
All that.
Oh, okay. You got a minute, huh?
Yeah.
So, over the next 2 years, we worked through the system, through the insurance and through the victim's advocate, the courts, if you will, to express our gratitude and to do anything in our power to make sure Amanda served no time. I was on a rocket ride. I had been split wide open. I'd received Quinton's first sign for signs, and I needed to share. So my first video was shot about 7 weeks after the accident. It was about first video, first time speaking. I don't like public, or didn't like public speaking, so I kind of didn't know where to begin. But the last 5 minutes of that talk, I talked about the medicine man. There was, well, it was 5 days after the accident. A dear friend of ours who came to our rescue along with family members. She was approached by a medicine man in the lobby of the Marriott Courtyard. And it was about 7:30 in the morning ish. And he walked up to her and grabbed her hands and looked her in her eyes and said, "I've just finished performing a ceremony and a little boy sent me to find you and let you know that he is fine. Somebody named Tom is helping him with his transition and everything is going to work out." So I shared that in my first video. The system and the insurance company and the courts do a very, very good job of keeping us, the victims, separated from the person that caused the accident. And we all understand the why. But some of her family members saw that video and they told her about it. So when we finally saw her 1 year and 51 weeks later in the court for her sentencing of 10 days, she could have had 3 years. We had 2 of the charges dropped before we got there. We did our victim's advocacy statement to plead no time. The judge spent 15 minutes explaining why he was going to give her 10 days. When we went and embraced her after sentencing, after she said goodbye to her parents because she's going to jail, she went to shake my hand and I said no. And I wrapped her up and I held her. And I said, "We've been worried about you." And she's babbling about a medicine man. Her grandfather, transitioned grandfather on the other side, is a medicine man. She heard about the video, the medicine man that greeted our group, our friend, and she thought it was her dad.
Her grandpa.
I'm sorry, her grandfather.
grandpa,
Her
yeah.
grandfather.
And
I have chills everywhere.
yeah, I do too.
You know, and it's, I mean, I love the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
You know, I love the rabbit hole. So our friend, Chris Goldrich, saw this medicine man in full ceremonial gear. He turned and walked out the door. She turned to her daughter, Layla, who was there at the accident scene, our daughter's best friend, and asked her, "Did that just happen?" And she said, "Yes, that did just happen." Well, months later, I mean, maybe as much as a year or more later, Layla shared that she saw that same individual where her mom, Chris, saw him in full ceremonial gear. Layla saw him dressed in jeans, a t-shirt and jeans. Wow is right.
Yes.
And I didn't want to include it in the book because it's like, wait, that's just too much.
Yeah.
But that's how they saw him differently.
But now looking back at it, I feel, it very easily could have been and maybe and was Amanda's grandfather asking us, that everything is going to be okay, and allowed us to our hearts to give leniency and want that for her. She had a 6-month-old child at the time of the accident. We didn't know that then, but she had a young one at home, that she needed to be there for.
Well, there's so many pieces of this I love, but I mean, you guys not only had the feeling of forgiveness, but you took action to make sure she wasn't going to spend time in jail. I mean, in the book, you even share the letter you wrote to the judge requesting that she not serve any time. That is so beautiful. If anybody on earth is struggling with forgiveness, please go read this book and read that letter that Ernie and Kristine wrote to the judge before the hearing, saying, we don't believe that being in prison is going to help her have a good life and learn and grow. That's so beautiful. But the other thing, as you said briefly early at the beginning of your story, was that the Four Corners is a very sacred site. And that I think connects to the Native American, coming. So do you have any more you want to say about that?
I do actually. Like I said, was on a rocket ride and didn't know what I didn't know. I was employed with a group at the time based in Seattle, and some of my coworkers were sharing the details of the accident, the odd items about the accident and the location. Well, no, let me take that back. They shared the odd details of the accident without sharing the location. And the person they were talking to asked, did that by chance happen in the Four Corners area? So I've since done, as part of my reading, I began to read. Once I recognized Quinton's signs, once I understood what they were, I began to read to try to understand, what's going on here. And I did a lot of reading on Native American history and about the Anasazi and that region and everything about the history of that region and the mega droughts from 1276 to 1305. And it's just a sacred area. There's a lot of living that happened in that area, and it goes back to us seeing faces in the rock at Lake Powell.
Yes, exactly. And beautiful Quinton, such an old soul. And so, I mean, even in your book, Kristine, you talk about how from the time he was a baby, people would say, oh my gosh, he's just such an old soul, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like I said, he came to us at a time when we really, truly needed him, not knowing that we could have another child. And I go to the doctors and they tell me you have the flu. And I said, no, I don't think so. Could you possibly be pregnant? And we looked at each other like, no, it's been 5 years now. No, since we've had our daughter, but we're just going to run a pregnancy test. So they did. And sure enough, I was pregnant. And I mean, just every day of that child's life here in the physical was just a true, true blessing. He brought so much to our lives, and still to this day brings so much to our lives.
And also the sense I got of getting to know him through your writing is that he, when he was here on Earth, was a very precognitive, sensitive child. Like there's a scene that you share where I think it was when you were at the lake at this final vacation, when you said, hey, Quinton, let's go fishing, because you brought fishing gear and everything. And he said, no, because you had taken him on a fishing trip a few years ago. He said, no, I caught a fish already.
I've already done that.
I've already done that.
Yeah, he wasn't there to prove anything to anybody. He was just there to live, and I felt to spread his love and joy.
And not only that, but what I got from that statement was he was such an old soul that he knew what was important, and that there was also some part of him saying, maybe catching fish isn't that great for the fish, so like, I don't need to go do it again. I mean, this was a 9-year-old boy who just had this wisdom about him and still does. So you, Kristine, when was your first absolutely clear sign from Quinton?
It was probably close to the 2-year mark, because I had a lot of hurt. at some extent, I would say anger. I wasn't as forgiving as Ernie initially.
But
I
you
knew
were in a lot of physical pain. You
that,
should share
yeah,
that. Yeah.
I was in a lot of physical pain. I endured major trauma. So it was taking me that much time to somewhat overcome it. I'm never going to overcome it. I live on a day to day with the pain. And I'm okay with that because I can walk, I could talk, I could be here with you. So I'm okay with that. But it took me a while. I could hear him. I always heard him in the distance, in the, an echo of Quinton, Mom, I'm with you. I love you. I feel like I could talk to him on the other side. But it was, like I said, close to that 2-year marking where I had a dream. I was wearing my earrings to bed, and I never wear my earrings to bed because I know they slightly stab the side of my um, neck. And I happened to wear them that night. And he came to me in my dream and told me, Mom, you don't have to hurt anymore. You don't have to feel this pain. It's okay. I'm with you. It's going to be all right. And I woke up from that visitation with the earring off of me on my pillow. It was almost as if he was allowing me and he was releasing it from me, the pain that I was kind of instilling upon myself. Because I felt from that point on, it was up to me to shed that. Well, yes, I'm going to have some pain, but I'm strong. I could deal with it. I'm going to be okay. I didn't have to hold it anymore. I
Right.
could release it.
It's like he took the earring off of you too
Yeah,
and laid it on the pillow so you could find it.
right, right. He knew me by leaving it on would hurt me. I knew that. And why I did it, I don't know. But he took it off, and he allowed me to release that from me. And I hold that near and dear to my heart. Even today with certain situations, I don't have to hold on to
Right.
those. I could release it.
That's
And
such a beautiful message from Quinton. You
yes,
don't have to hold on to the pain. I've heard that from many spirits in the departed, even my departed husband, Paul, who died of terrible cancer when he was quite young. He's come back many times and said, suffering is not real. It doesn't exist in the soul. Let go of it. Because I had all these memories of him suffering.
yeah.
And how did you two, especially you, Ernie, you had a trauma of the visual, of the physical, of seeing everything. How have you worked to heal or release that trauma?
Initially, it was a dichotomy. Initially, my breath was taken away with the realization that Quentin still is, and that's the reason for the 2 books. There was the fact that it literally took my breath away. It's like, I didn't know it was possible. And why didn't I know it was possible? So I was caught up in that epiphany for years. I would literally,
Studying spiritual text, right? And
yeah.
you write about reincarnation in your book. Do you want to talk about that?
Well, the first, the people are amazing. The first books that came to me were on reincarnation. Dr. Weiss, Many Lives, Many Souls. And some people don't resonate with that. It is a book about reincarnation. Dr. Weiss, I love his story. Out of being a skeptical, out of being a cynic, he became a spokesperson for reincarnation. He had a patient and he couldn't help her. He wanted to help her. So after a year and a half, he ventured off the beaten path, and he said, "Let's do a hypnotism and take me back to where these symptoms manifested themselves." And months later, this young lady had shared, I think, 86 different lives, and he sat on this information for 4 years because he didn't want to lose his reputation and his standing in the community. So that's the first that came to me. And why is that relevant for a grieving parent? Well, that kind of sets the stage and builds a foundation to help understand that we exist beyond this flesh. So, and I love talking about reincarnation because, I believe it to be a fact. I had read all these books about reincarnation before I read the New Testament, before I read the words of Christ. And I could see in the New Testament where Jesus was very, very specifically talking about reincarnation. And I know some people in the dogma say I'm wrong, but no. The gift we have now is we get to read the book and interpret it the way our soul interprets it. So Jesus was talking about reincarnation, and I'm all in. It's like, there's no way we're going to learn everything in one lifetime. In fact, I was told that Quinton and I had done this before, but I didn't get it, so we had to do it again. Reincarnation.
I love that, because once we begin to explore even an idea like reincarnation, what we're really grasping, like you said, is the idea that the soul is eternal, that consciousness is eternal. And once we can grasp that, and especially grasp it in a more new age spiritual way, not meaning there's a God in the sky going to punish you for anything you've done wrong. Now we're taking responsibility for our learning, for our behavior, for our emotions, because if I'm a soul on a journey and I came to learn here and suddenly something bad happens and I'm just angry and blameful, am I learning that lesson? Or when I cross over, is my soul going to see it clearly and go, oh my God, Sue, what were you thinking? That was a lesson to open your heart, and then we decide, darn, I got to go back there now and get it right.
The beautiful thing about the journey and about this divine knowledge that's been imparted on us is there's no judgment. We are imperfect. I mean, and I hate people saying we're born in sin. That's not how I look at it. I look at it in terms of we're here improving and growing and evolving. We're imperfect. And if we don't get it right, that's okay. We have other lifetimes. There's only love. It's all right. It's all going to be okay. Let's be more gentle with ourselves.
And also that we're in this together learning, right?
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
if somebody does something that we would call unforgivable, when we look at them through the eyes that you looked at Amanda at and we see their pain, then we can no longer blame them. We can no longer judge them, because we know they're on their own journey of learning and growing, and that whatever pain they've caused us is something they are learning from in a soul level. That's why when humans talk about, oh, they deserve judgment and justice and all this stuff, I think justice does not happen on this physical realm. It just doesn't. It happens in the soul level of our own learning. Exactly. What are your thoughts?
I weighed right in on that conversation. I've spoken to it numerous times. We tend to, Jesus tells us not to judge, but we do. Right. And we want to judge those that cause the pain. But here's the deal. None of us are perfect. It could have just have easily been us that caused that pain. An inattentive moment while driving, going through a red light, causing an accident. An inattentive moment fiddling with the radio and causing an accident. Who knows? Maybe last lifetime it was reversed. And we just have to, and it's, those words are very easy. I've talked to people who want to, be angry with me for talking about forgiveness, and I'm not going to argue. It's like, we'll get there when we get there. I've spoken about forgiveness in front of groups, and I've had people come at me and I encourage them, and they say, are you telling me that I'm supposed to forgive? And I say, no, I'm not. I own the fact that sometimes you need the anger just to get out of bed. I'm telling you, at some point, you got to release the anger, because it's going to cause more harm than good. And at some point, whenever you're ready, the forgiveness will help. That's what I'm telling you.
Spoken like an 8-path soul. And I'm just going to throw in here that for my numerology people, Ernie is an 8-path soul learning to use his power for good in the world. And he'll tell you himself that he realized early on that he was powerful and that everybody who meets him realizes he's powerful, and that through Quinton's lessons and messages, he's understood now what he is here to use his power for. Would you agree with that, Ernie?
Definitely. And then, even that's a dichotomy. And I don't know if now's the time to bring up, that piece of the dichotomy, because there's always two sides. But yes, I have an ability. It's a gift from the heavens. It's a gift from God. And I'm kind of stubborn. I don't want to place a monetary value on it, because I think that's sacred. So because I'm in that place, and I've been in this place for decades, so people have known me for 3 decades, say you've always been that way, Ernie, and that you struggle to monetize the gift and the good.
Right.
I end up in jobs where I do work. I do jobs to make money, and the jobs kind of drain my soul, but I'm in the jobs in part to connect with people. so I can share my gift with them and the gift of perspective and coaching and mentoring at no charge. But I painted myself in a box, so maybe we can talk offline about that.
Yes, Ernie, I think I have a book you might like called I See Your Dream Job.
Yeah.
I think I need to read that.
Yeah.
Also, Ernie, if I could wave the magic wand on you, I would have you become a unity minister, because you have the ability to empower people, to help people understand spiritual principles in a very human and real way. And I'm a unity minister. And what the beauty of it is we teach that God is a loving consciousness that runs this universe, not a man in the sky who judges us, and that loving God consciousness lives inside of all of us. And I think your path has taken you right to those beliefs. And if you could teach them, share them, speak them, and get out in the world, think of all the thousands of people that you would help.
No, that definitely excites me, and you and I need to sit down and talk about that, because I need a nudge, maybe with a baseball bat, to move me down the path a little further.
And then Kristine, my beloved, you are a 22 master soul. And as my numerology peeps know, that I'm also on the 22 path. And what it means is that we agreed to come in to be thought shifters, that we are trying to help people think differently and look at the world in a different way. Now, I know you had your own journey through all of this and your own learnings and teachings, but how do you feel today about your work in the world? And are you going to write a book, or where does it all stand for you?
Yeah, I don't know that I'd ever write a book. I'd probably partake in another one of Ernie's books, because I feel like he will be writing another one at some point in time. As a more so of where we are now, because we're 14 years in now. I At the time, I felt I didn't know what was in it for me to learn. Like, the accident happened and it was traumatic, and we all knew it was for something for Ernie to learn. But then I questioned what is it for me to learn? What did I need to learn from this? And I came to find out that I needed to learn my self-worth, because I kind of took a back seat to take care of everyone, to be the lover, the nurturer that I am. But I also needed to know my worth on that level.
Right.
So I, since then, realized that and wholeheartedly feel it. But I feel also I need to understand my strength, because while I'm not the most strong person, I'm not one of those fitness gurus in the gym or what have you, like this guy. He's he's my solid rock.
Kristine,
um
inner strength is what you have in spades.
well, that's what it is. Yeah, I feel like I didn't know, but I feel like I am here to learn that strength, to know that I embody that strength, and I am wholeheartedly super strong, that not even a vehicle could take me out.
Or
So
the
I have.
loss of your beloved son.
Yeah.
None of that. You
Yeah.
stayed because you are so powerful and you
Yeah.
have such an extraordinary gift to others, especially people who spend their life nurturing others. You
Yeah.
have a message that they are worthy.
And yeah, and that's what I feel that I'm here for. Because I ask myself, and I've asked Ernie many of times, what do you feel is my purpose? Because I feel like I don't really know that up till now. But I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother to 3 beautiful grandchildren. I'm a caretaker to my 79-year-old mother who lives with us, who's endured cancer now for the second time. I'm taking care of her. I lost my father. He transitioned when I was 30. So, I've been with her through her journey of grieving. I'm the youngest of 3 children, so I feel like I am here, for a purpose. I'm still trying to figure it out, but I just feel like I'm a natural born lover, nurturer. Um,
Absolutely.
and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. I know the people that I've touched. I know the people who have touched me. Um, so
Well,
I'm still figuring it out.
you two are rock stars. And I'll also share that when you gave your presentation at Unity of Phoenix, the best part was when you were both up there at the microphone and both of you sharing your different stories and different perspectives. And that's what the world needs. I mean, Ernie represents the powerful guy, right? And Kristine represents the loving, the divine mother, whose power comes in a very different way, but at the end of the day is the true inner strength. Do you know that story, Kristine, about, and by the way, I have a whole Native American connection too, which maybe I'll share with you guys at some point, but when Paul was dying, we studied from, and Paul was healed by a Native American healer, a Sioux Native American healer called Chief Fool's Crow, who basically told both of us at the time of the healing that Paul had already chosen his exit and that my job was to be strong. And then Chief Fool's Crow walked Paul through the whole process of dying. And that's a whole bunch of stories that I'll tell you later. But in all of that, I studied a lot of Native American history, and they tell this story about how after the battle, when all the men had gone out and killed each other and there were all these dead bodies on the field, the Native American women would go out and tend to anyone still alive on the field, and then take care of all the departed bodies and carry them and anoint them and create ceremony for them. So it was the women who carried the Native American communities that way. And you follow, in a way, your energy is like these powerful Native American women who said, men are going to go out and do what they do. We are here to provide the love and nurture and caring that they need. And that is
absolutely. I do feel that. I am 39% Hopi. So I do resonate with that. I do feel like I am part of him in his life, to help him along his journey, as well as my mom, my daughter, my grandchildren. So I do wholeheartedly resonate with that. And that's what I want to be in this world, to help others along their journey, knowing they're not alone. We will be with our departed ones eventually at our time, at our exit point. It's not our time yet. We still have to be here.
Work to do.
Yeah, we still have work to do.
Thank you both. And how would a listener get a hold of you if they want? Do you offer coaching, Ernie, or anything like that?
No, I don't. I haven't. I mean, I do it informally, at no charge. Basically, people I run into, and yeah, we don't have a website right now. I used to have one, but it went down.
We're looking for a web designer.
Okay, we're putting out the call here.
Putting it in the universe. But yeah, through our phone numbers, through our emails, if we're always willing and open to speak with anybody.
Kristine's on Facebook.
Yeah.
Each and every day.
And your books are on Amazon, and they're called Quinton's Messages and Quinton's Legacy, and they're incredibly great reads for anybody.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you both so much. It's been such a blessing to share this time with you, and keep doing what you're doing. You're both just very incredible souls, and we're lucky to have you incarnated with us here at this time.
Thank you. Thank you.